We get a lot of inquiries about doing custom projects, and unfortunately I just have to turn down 99% of them because I'm a one-man shop and I just don't have the capacity. Joe reached out to me, and his story was inspiring, and I think you guys will feel the same.
I'm Joe. My wife Monica and I are married for 20 years. We got 6 kids. I'm a disabled veteran, retired police officer, and a financial advisor now. My wife is active duty military stationed in Georgia, and here I am at Jonesy's getting my Suburban turned into a beast. I've always wanted to have a permanent vehicle. I love Suburbans. I've had many Suburbans over the years, but I also have a fascination with the diesel motors and building it bigger and stronger. And after all my research, I determined that a 1990s Suburban was my favorite. I had childhood memories. Combined with a 12-valve mechanical Cummins is the best motor out there, according to all the experts on the internet. And so I wanted to melt those two together. And after research and watching YouTube, I came across Joel at Jonesy's, and I seen what he did with Subruno, which is this guy right here behind me. And I was so impressed. I watched every video on his website, on the YouTube channel, and I really liked the quality of his workmanship and what he did. And so I reached out, and I was surprised when he actually responded, because he was like a YouTube celebrity to me. So I reached out, and he replied, and we talked back and forth. And after a while, he decided he'd take me on. So I drove my 1999 K2500 Suburban with a 6.5 Detroit diesel, old piece of junk motor. I drove it all the way from Georgia to Washington State, and it was an adventure. But it worked, and it was fun. And once I got here, I got to meet Joel and his family, and then see his shop, and then Joel put me to work. So the whole day yesterday, Joel supervised as I disassembled my 12-valve Cummins, down to the pistons, took the whole thing apart, the crankshaft, everything, completely disassembled it, washed it, cleaned it. We're taking parts and replacing things and building as close as we can to a bulletproof motor. And it's awesome because I got to learn a bunch of stuff I didn't know, and I have some ownership in the project now. And that's one of the main reasons I chose to go this way. And so there you go.
Okay, what's the update? What are you doing?
We are disassembling this motor, and Joel's telling me exactly what to do.
Is he being bossy?
He's not bossy. He's a good teacher. You can tell he's a dad. I'm like his son right now. He's being very patient with me.
We found a couple issues. The cylinder walls have a little bit of rust on them from sitting, and the camshaft itself looks like it's got some issues on some of the lobes from sitting around. So
it's sitting a while.
We're gonna have to send the block off to the machine shop to have it honed and double checked. Mm-hmm. But so far it's looking pretty good. The plan forward is we're gonna send the P pump out to have it serviced, put a new fuel plate in, 3K governor spring kit, and upgrade the camshaft. Not sure if we're gonna go with a Hamilton cam or a Colt cam yet.
Sure.
But yeah, so far the engine disassembly for Project Shrapnel is coming right along.
It is. Hands on right here.
Yeah. So Joe, you have any recommendations for any people that want to take this on yourself?
Bring old clothes if you ever come here, because if you be working, Joel will work here. It's a lot, but it's really cool. I'm enjoying it.
Have you ever done anything like this before?
Not to this level. In the military, I'm called -20, which means I can do more than changing the oil. This would be -30 level. This is a whole new level for me. I've never taken a motor down this far before.
So what's the plan for tomorrow?
Plan for tomorrow, the rest of today, we're going to get the rest of the pistons, the crank, get the block completely stripped so it can go to the machine shop. We'll have them magnaflux it, hot tank it, and then see if the cylinder walls can get cleaned up with just a basic hone, or we're going to have to bore it and buy some pistons. So
fingers crossed.
We don't know how many miles this engine had on it, but wear-wise, it doesn't really show any wear. There's no ridge on the top of the cylinders or anything like that. It's just from sitting around, it's got some flash rust.
It's sitting at least a year.
So that's a lesson for all you guys that store these things. Make sure you seal them up really well so they don't deteriorate.
How's your piston cleaning experience going?
It's awesome. I've never wanted to clean pistons as much as I do right now. This is amazing stuff right here. I drove all the way to Washington State to drive out here to clean some pistons. But it's good.
We're cleaning off the surface rust. This engine,
It's had it for almost 2 years, so I guess in Georgia, if an engine sits for a long time, it gets rusty. So you can see the surface rust.
otherwise the piston itself looks good. It's in good shape. It's just we have a little bit of surface rust on the camshaft and on the block, so we're gonna send it out, have it tanked, have it honed.
Yep.
Blueprint it, make sure that it's all the specifications and clearances are good.
If you're gonna do all this work, you might as well go all the way out and make sure everything's good.
Yeah. So this is why when anybody asks about what things cost, I give them a generic response that we charge by the hour, it's plus materials, and it's because we have no idea what we're gonna find. Like this engine was supposedly what,
100 and, well, he told me it's 75,000 miles, and then I called him again. He says 147,000
okay,
miles.
so miraculously the mileage doubled on it.
Once he saw that I opened it up,
Once, yeah, so
he just thought I was gonna drop it in.
yeah. So, and this is generally why we don't like to just drop in used engines. We like to at least take a look at them beforehand, because it's a lot of time and effort to get the installation correct, and just risk having issues down the road. So,
Yeah.
unless you actually hear it running and you know it was running and driving beforehand when you pull it out, it's always a good choice. And some of the other things that we found on some of these rod bearings. Well, you can always tell if a rod bearing needs to be replaced is you can see the copper. I don't know if that's going to go through in the video, but you can start to see the copper layer showing through on the rod bearing. So that means that all of the other layers have been worn out, and it's down to the base copper. So this one's going to get all new rings, all new bearings, hold the block, Magnaflux it,
Get the injectors
check it out.
worked on. So they actually take the injectors and they take them apart and they.
Yeah, so when we take the pump to the specialty pump shop, we're going to take them the injectors, and they're going to pop test the injectors, and they'll actually enlarge the hole size on these and then flow check them. So they'll clean all the injectors, upsize the flow pattern, and verify that they're popping at the correct pressure for the P-pump. So the last thing that we're going to do at the pump shop is we're going to send them we're going to give them the turbo, and they're going to go through the turbo, rebuild it because it's got 150,000 miles, and we want to start fresh with some new modules on the turbo, so that we know it's good to go. The HX35 is reportedly good to about 400 horsepower. Our plan for this engine is we're conservatively shooting for 250, 300 or so, head studs, things like that. So in future videos, you'll see the engine kind of go together, and then we'll give you guys a tour of the actual Suburban itself with the 6.5 that Joe drove how many miles?
2,400.
And didn't shut off at all.
No, I let it run the whole time for 4 days straight. Never turned it off.
Yeah. And he was having flashbacks of military days because the 6.5 sounds
Humvee, just like a Humvee motor. Yeah, it's the same thing.
so.
It's slow. It'll go, but it's slow.
Yeah, especially with 35-inch tires and 6 inches of lift.
Blue black smoke all the way here.
Yeah, so no, we're fortunate to have Joe trust us with his project. This is, I guess, a lifelong dream of yours.
Yeah, definitely. Super exciting.
So it's nice he could come out, kind of tear into his engine and see our operation.
I get to see where the magic happens.
Yeah, I could force him to get some work done. So, but yeah, so far so good. We got a good game plan, and we're moving forward. You got anything else you want to tell YouTube viewers?
No.
So here begins the teardown of Shrapnel. Couple tips that you guys need to know about if you're going to take on one of these projects yourself. You need to identify the locations of the sensors that need to be transferred over to your Cummins. Specifically the oil pressure sensor and the water temp sensor. And you got to also be careful on the water temp sensor, because on the gasoline models there are actually two, one for the ECM and one for the gauge. And you can always tell the gauge one because it has one wire, and that is it right there for the water temp. So we'll have to take that out and swap it over. Now, I haven't quite decided exactly what I'm going to do for an intercooler on this. I really like how clean these conversions are when I keep the factory GM stuff, because the compressor and the lines on all that stuff just fits so nicely with that radiator. So most likely what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some custom fab work. Now, regardless, I am going to be removing the front core support completely. So next thing is pull the front bumper, pull the front core support, grill, and start working your way back to get to the engine. Also, I'm going to either remove the hood or just break the hinges loose right here and tilt it up more vertically so that we can utilize the bridge crane to pull out the old 6.5. So let's get to it and drain all the fluids and start taking stuff apart. Pressure washing, and now we're going to let it drip dry for probably 20-30 minutes, but you can already tell pretty remarkable difference. The pressure washer and the degreaser has worked great. Took a lot of the paint off of the chassis, which is really good because that will get it down to a good surface for us to wire brush some of this scaly rust, and then we're going to just hand paint it probably with some chassis saver product. So we're going to, like I said, we're going to let this thing drip dry, and then do one more round of the degreaser and pressure wash it, and then let it dry overnight, and it should be ready for paint.